Michie. She's got me to pronounce that a couple of times because I'm not good with those sorts of things. But apparently, it's a good Irish name or Scottish name. Scottish or Irish?
Yeah,
No,
it's Scottish. It's the
Scottish.
the whole rolling of the ch that you've
Can
got
you
to get.
pronounce it for us, just to make life?
It's Mickey. It's like a
Michie.
silent ch. Yeah,
Yeah, got
Mickey.
it. Got it. So Tarryn Michie's on the call with us today, and we're going to be talking about niching. And this has been one of those, it's almost like a forever conversation with people about niche. And funnily enough, I think that COVID actually brought this around for a lot of people because before COVID, they would niche almost geographically. And they'd say, well, I just work in this area and I draw a circle around my business, and that's my target market. Now that we're going into the world of global markets, all of a sudden that original niche is a little bit invalid. But probably more importantly, your market is much broader. So what you used to think was niche is now vanilla. So Taryn's going to be sharing how she niched in her business and how that's actually helped with their business growth. And that hopefully will give some of you out there a bit of inspiration to into which direction. So Taryn, maybe give us a bit about you, a bit of the story.
Yeah, sure, David. Thanks. Thanks for having me. So, I suppose it started for us back when we started as a digital marketing agency. We were working with absolutely anybody and everybody, just whoever came our way that felt like a good fit for our team, we would take on the business. And we were doing that probably for about a year, and we weren't enjoying it. We were feeling like we were spread too thin because we were trying to do website builds, we were trying to do SEO, we were
Mm,
doing paid advertising, organic social media, email marketing, and we were all just struggling to keep up with, the rapid rate that everything moves at these days. Social media changes every day. It's
yeah.
and it just felt like business was overwhelming, that, it was a constant stress trying to keep up with everything, and to be able to offer our clients value in terms of being ahead of the curve, not, always trying to play catch up with
Mm,
trends. So I suppose it was actually probably around the time that COVID hit, we had a period where a lot of clients just paused their accounts with us all of a sudden because there was so much uncertainty out there in the market.
yep.
And even though it didn't last long, I suppose it was about an 8-week period that it went on for, but
Mm,
it made us all sit down and think, well, why, who do we really want to be working with? What type of client really lights us all up and energizes us and
yeah.
gets us all excited? And when we looked at it, we had a couple of pet brands that we were working with, a couple of pet businesses, e-commerce pet businesses. And we really enjoyed looking after those accounts. That's where we love spending our time and energy. And so we started talking as a team around pet brands and working with pet businesses. And we all looked at our Instagram feeds and things like that. And
Mm,
we're all pet owners ourselves. We've all got our Instagram feeds full of animals and things like that. So it really was one of those light bulb moments where I suppose we all just thought this is where we should be going with things.
right.
So so we focused in on pet brands. We changed all our marketing to talk to that one type of uh, that one sort of industry, the pet industry. But
Yep.
we were still working with e-commerce and service-based businesses.
Hmm.
Um, and then it was probably about 18 months after that that we again felt that sort of overwhelm and stress within the business, and it made us all stop and take another look at things.
Yeah.
And that's when we decided that, well, the thing that we really love doing isn't necessarily websites, or we definitely aren't social media people, but we love email marketing. All of us love getting stuck into that and building meaningful relationships with pet parents through email marketing for the pet brands we work with.
Right.
So again, we took that next niche from not just the pet industry, but took it down again to specifically e-commerce pet brands, and we took it down to email marketing. So I
Right.
think it was, and that's where we felt like in our business, that was just a big turning point for us, in that things became a lot easier. We all lean into it and feel like we're enjoying it a lot more.
Hmm.
And it's where business started to flow. New leads kept coming in a lot more easily for us.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah, so it's sort of going to that sort of, I suppose, that inch wide and a mile deep is what they say with niching. You've really got to get you as narrow as you can and as deep as you can.
Yes. And so it sounds like you took a pretty sort of almost a brutal approach by just narrowing down and narrowing down.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about the results. So what's the overall difference in the business now?
Well, I think for us, it makes it so much easier in terms of our marketing and
Mm,
trying to get in front of the right people at an early stage when they're early in their business and they're just starting to grow. We're getting in front of them because we're having, it's one person that we're having one conversation with, and it's one problem and one solution. So we're not having to do that scattergun approach with how we talk to our audience through our marketing.
yep.
It's We can be very specific, and it makes it a lot easier to connect with people because you can have a deeper conversation through your automated marketing that's going out there.
Hmm.
Um, so I'd say that's one key thing for us. The other thing is for us internally as a business,
Mm,
because we're doing a much narrower scope of services, we're able to build better systems and procedures in place. We're able to automate and systemize a lot more of day-to-day activities.
yes.
So it makes it easier for us as a business to scale up because we're not doing a different thing for each client. We're doing the same thing for every client. So it's a lot easier to be able to grow that.
Yeah, I understand.
Um,
Understand.
I think it makes it easier as well for partnering because you can go, this is our scope. Let's find other businesses that provide complementary services that aren't sort of direct competitors with us, but they've got
Yes.
the same audience. They're also working with pet brands or e-commerce, so that
Okay.
makes it a lot easier too.
So the overall position in your business, is it better than it was pre-COVID? Is it back to where it was? Is it not quite there? How are you feeling?
Definitely, we're at the highest level of growth we've ever seen with our business from when we started out, and
Okay.
it's just we don't have to spend as much time and energy on things like paid advertising or being able to
Mm,
spend a lot of time trying to reach people because referrals are so much easier because now others in the pet industry are going, if somebody says, oh, I need to invest more time on email marketing, I need to invest more time in reaching my audience through that channel, we're getting a lot more referrals because people know exactly how we can help. It's a
gotcha.
lot clearer. So I think those referrals are coming through a lot more, probably double the amount that we've ever seen before. So it really helps as well with lead generation.
Yeah. So are you finding you're getting clients from further away, or is it still in the same geographical location?
Um, it's changed a little bit for us in terms of that because when we started out, we always were a global business.
Yes.
We have team members situated all around the world, plus we have clients in many different countries.
Okay.
Um, and I've worked as a freelancer prior to starting this business while I was traveling. So I've always had sort of a global perspective to running business.
Mhm.
Um, so I suppose, but as we've moved along, we have narrowed in more on Australian audience because,
Yeah.
again, with niching, I suppose we've found that the way we like to build out our marketing suits an Australian audience the best.
Gotcha.
So we have honed in a lot more on an Australian audience rather than, say, American pet businesses,
Gotcha.
just because there's a very different tone of voice to the marketing that you're building out.
Sure. Sure.
Hmm.
So let's talk about some of the fears and the conundrums of niching,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I think every time we have this conversation, people are saying, well, we niche down to small businesses or small
yeah,
businesses who need our help. And you listen to these things and you say that they're very safe niches because it's not a niche. Right? It's
yeah.
like anyone with a wallet and some money. Like I remember when we
Yeah.
when we talk to people when they start their businesses, basically they're looking for clients and it's anyone with a pulse and a wallet. And
Yeah,
sometimes
I've
their
been
wallet
there
is
so many
empty, right?
times.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
you take anyone with a pulse, you just say, if you're willing to talk to me, I'll do everything, right? And
Yeah.
then as you grow, you start to mature and realize, well, they need to be able to pay as well. And they need to be able to
Yeah.
behave as a client and they need to work with us. And then you start putting these conditions on through experience. But what you've done is pretty much cut off all of the previous clients. Now, did you get rid of those clients? Did you grandfather them out? What did you do?
No, yeah, we have kept a couple of clients that we're
Okay.
just very aligned in terms of our values and
Yes.
how we ideally like to work. So we have kept a couple on board where yeah, we just enjoy working with them, and
Okay.
they're not pet business related. But there are some that we worked with and we said, look, the best approach going forward is we are actually changing to focusing on email marketing. You
Mhm.
originally came to us for, say, organic social media or
Yes.
something like that. So we then work with them to find an ideal solution for somebody else for them to move across and work with.
Right.
And then we help that process by training up that new, whether it's a freelancer or another agency, we help with the whole transition so there's no impact there really on the business owner.
Cool.
And I think it's important to do those things, not just to cut somebody off. You've got to actually nurture that transition for
Transition.
them. So,
Yes. So there's
yeah,
the relationship that needs to be preserved in the transition as well.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's like you always, as a business owner yourself, you wouldn't want somebody to do that to you, to just all of a sudden cut you off when you've been working with them on a
No.
service. So I think you've got to treat others how you'd like to be treated yourself. And yes, definitely. I mean,
Mm.
it's not easy when you're busy and that, but it's just part of, it's like in life, as people, we evolve and we grow and we change, and it's the
Yes.
same in business.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody expects us to stay the same day in, day out
No.
forever. So as long as you communicate that clearly and you have an honest conversation, and you work with the business owner to find them a new solution that works well for them and is actually maybe a better solution for them than it was working with you. So
Right. So let's go back to that time when you started cutting and slicing and dicing. There's obviously
yeah,
an anxiety and a fear around, if we do this,
yeah.
will it work? How do we cope with this? What happens if it fails? How did you manage that transition?
I think it's a slow transition. It's not something that we make that decision and straight away overnight we go and implement it all into the business. It's a
Yeah.
very gradual and slow process.
Hmm.
I'd also recommend with business owners that are thinking of niching down even further and getting a lot more narrow, is change your marketing, change your lead generation to attract that new type of person, and bring some of those clients on board and have them in place before you start transitioning out maybe old ones that are no longer your ideal clients. So
Yeah.
so yeah, don't get rid of the business until you've actually got some other in place.
Yeah. So it's a,
And
it's a transition.
that takes away that stress of a reduction in your cash flow or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I suppose in
Mm,
the end, you're moving into a new territory or new space. You'll be testing your marketing into that space.
yeah,
You'll probably be a bit clunky on that transition for the new clients, even because it's sort of like,
yeah,
well, we're doing this. Yes, we've sort of done it before, but not with this level of vigor.
yeah.
But I suppose it also allows you to fast track because it's just one thing to one target market, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think your marketing becomes, certainly in my experience, your marketing becomes a lot easier the more narrow you go with your niche, because it is like, for us now talking about e-commerce, email marketing, we can just do so many different pillars of content that comes off that core topic, that
Mm.
core problem and solution.
Yeah.
It's very easy then, whereas before we were, I suppose, a bit more of a scattergun approach with our marketing.
Yep.
None of it was landing anywhere. None of it was actually generating good quality leads.
Right.
Now we find when a lead comes through, we don't have to have a sales conversation with them. They already know that they want to work with us.
Hmm.
And it's more a conversation about, well, what does that look like? How's it going to work as the onboarding process and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose being a marketing company yourself, niche is probably part of your vernacular every single day when you're working with clients.
Yeah, I think, well, it translates as well across to e-commerce pet products, because you need to stand out in a crowd. There is a huge boom in the pet industry
Mm.
over COVID, especially,
Yeah.
and that's not slowing down. So there are a lot of small startups out there, and
Mm.
so if you want to stand out, you have to be the expert in your field, or you have to be understand what your unique selling points are to others, and you can do that if you're very narrow with your niche.
So you told us about the successful transition into the pet food industry with email. Can you tell us about
Yeah.
some of the blunders in this niching, like stuff that you thought was going to work but didn't work? Was there any situations like that?
I think it's always difficult for me as a person. It's always difficult having that conversation with a client and saying, "Look, I'm sorry, but you know, we're just not the best fit for you anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think as a person, that can be a difficult conversation to have, but it's just being honest and transparent.
Yes.
Um, Another thing that, has sort of forced us to, I suppose, move into that niche as well is that the increasing costs of running a business are forcing business owners to sit and look at, well, where am I actually making a profit these days? I sometimes to survive as a business, you have to cut the services that
Yes.
aren't generating a good profit,
Yeah.
because we can't all work for free. Unfortunately, it's like
A
it'd
lot of
be
people would
nice.
love to, but I think, and this is another conundrum we talk about often is,
Mm.
in business, profitability is the scorecard.
Yeah.
So it's not that you go into business to make a profit. You make a profit because your business provides a service that people are willing to pay for.
Mm.
So we end up
Yeah.
with people who say, well, it's not about the money for me. I just like helping people. And I say, well,
Yeah. The more money
there
you
is,
have, though, the more impact you can have in the world.
that's right.
So
And if you're
with giving
profitable,
back, yeah,
unless you're a crook, right? In that case, you could
yeah,
be profitable because you had a gun and you walked into a bank and robbed it, but
exactly.
it's not sustainable, right? So
No.
the idea of providing a service that people are willing to pay premium for means if they keep
Mm.
coming back, there's value in the service.
Yeah.
So that's the measure, but it's a lagging indicator. What you
Mm.
just described there, I think business is constantly evolving, and I think as
Yes.
the market changes, opportunities, windows open and close all over the place. But
Yeah.
this niching one, I think, terrifies a lot of people. um,
Oh, I completely understand why it does, because it's that whole scarcity
yeah.
mentality that if I rule some people out of my
Yes.
scope of who I can help,
Yeah.
I have less leads coming through, but it actually has the opposite effect. But
Mm.
I understand. I've been there myself
Yes.
where I didn't quite believe it.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I think some of the things that made a huge difference for us with niching as well was it changing our marketing approach. Instead of just putting things out on social media, we actually started a podcast where we're talking about our niche with lots of different business owners.
Yes.
So we're sharing value, and so that has helped to educate people in why we do what we do, why we're so focused on email marketing. We believe it's a huge return on investment compared to a
Yes.
lot of other marketing channels. So I think when you explain to people, it's niching's not so frightening if you have the honest and transparent conversations
Mm.
with people. And it was the same with letting some clients go. We had to have that honest conversation that we don't actually make a profit out of social media, doing organic social media for clients. We're quite often operating at a loss
Yeah.
because it's so time consuming and doesn't have a great return on investment. Um, so, it's just having those conversations that we have to change our business model, as well as it inspires us more to work in this area. As financials, we actually have to work in this area too.
Mm.
So, yeah, it can help to have those conversations and
Yeah.
just be real.
Yeah.
So,
Fantastic. So, look,
mm,
I suppose if you were advising someone who's sitting there
mm,
going, well, we can't pick our niche. There's two or three niches we think we might be able to go into, but we're just not sure which one because
yeah.
we have to discard the other two. What's your advice to that person?
I think from my experience, if you want to stay energized in your business, and it's a challenging world, we all have become very adaptable over the last few years.
Yeah.
I think, focus in on where you feel the most energized and inspired in your business. So think about the clients that you love connecting with, they light you up and you really enjoy having conversations with and helping them with the growth of their business.
Mm.
Think about where your skill set lies. Where do you have the most experience? Where do you have the most knowledge and understanding? And where would you be happy to continue building on that knowledge?
Hmm.
Um, and then test your market. Ask them if it is a case of it's not a financial decision, it's not a heart-based business decision. Ask your audience, about where they're needing the most help. Where are the greatest challenges for them in their business? And see how that applies to what you provide. And that might give you the answer as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like it's more of a journey than a decision.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think we've got it all figured out either. I'm sure we're going to evolve more over the years, and we'll
Sure.
adapt, and the environment and the economy might force us to adapt at times. And that's just part of running business, though.
It is.
So
It always has been, and I think
reality.
We see a lot of people and they say, I've never had to market before. My business has always just shown up and then one day it all stopped.
Yeah.
And then when you look back, you say, well, you never really did anything to get that business in the first place. You were just the right person in the right place at the right time.
Yes. Yeah.
And now the market's moved on and you haven't. So
Mm.
you either adapt your business, you've used that word a few times,
Yeah.
or you accept the fact that markets are not static, they're dynamic. And so
Yeah.
people are moving onward. It works the other way as well, I guess, where people are getting this enormous growth as a result of COVID.
Mm.
The caravan industry or even the automotive industry, we wouldn't have picked
Yeah.
that. And all of a sudden, my car's worth more money than what I paid for it, just because
Yeah.
I happen to own it, not because I'm a smart
Strange.
investor, right? But
Yeah.
that phenomenon occurs in business as well. I think people they have this growth or this shrinkage, and they start looking potentially at themselves and going, "What did I do wrong?" When
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is, it's just that the market has moved. It's not that you did anything wrong.
And it's going to keep moving. Like,
Mm,
it's never, whether you're in a good situation or a bad situation at the moment, it will change. That's a certainty sort of thing. At some point, it will change. So I think it's more about the attitude that you have and the mindset rather than so much skill sometimes. Sometimes it's just about going, okay, where's the opportunity here?
mm,
Where's the opportunity for me to grow or evolve or to move? And try it. Just gives things a go. It
yeah,
takes a little bit of you know, risk sometimes to just make a change. But that's why I was saying just do it gradually. There's nobody saying you have to switch something off and switch something new on overnight. Just make small gradual changes and just keep testing and seeing that things are going in the right direction.
yeah, awesome, awesome. So let me ask you, like,
Mm.
obviously you've made this transition into email marketing for the pet industry and e-commerce.
Yeah.
What's the next part of the journey look like?
Well, as I said, we started a podcast, so
Yeah,
that's taking up on top of the business.
yeah,
Just keeping the podcast going is a lot of work in
yeah.
itself, but I love it. It's great getting out there and talking to other businesses. Also, we're writing a book at the moment about
Okay.
the method that we use with
Hmm.
our clients, and to be able to share that, especially with small businesses that maybe can't necessarily afford to invest for done for you services
Right.
in the early days. We want to have that book that's an educational piece for them as well.
Hmm.
Um, One great thing I should mention as well that's worked for us in terms of niching very narrow is being able to do our own market research.
Yep.
So to go out there and do market research on our particular niche and then publish that research, but also to provide that research to our clients has been
Hmm.
hugely valuable, because when you've got your own specific niche, there's quite often not research out there on your particular field because it is so narrow. And that can
Yep.
be a hugely valuable piece to have in your business as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're right. When you create a niche that really was too small previously, historically,
Mm.
and then
Yeah.
you become the expert in that niche, you can do it pretty quickly. Um,
Yeah.
then other people in that niche would want to know
Yeah.
because
And I mean, there are so many pet businesses out there. We could never, we don't have to worry about not having enough people out there we could potentially work with. There is endless. And then, as you say, it's not just Australia. We can work with anybody in the world, and we do. So, yeah, I think it's just looking at your niche and seeing what opportunities lie within it, and
mm,
focusing in on those.
it's funny because you mentioned the pet industry, and I find most people will spend more money on their pets than they do on their own kids.
It is. Well, it's this is one of the things that we just ran market research ourselves, and it is, like the whole term pet parents and fur mum and fur dad is
Yep.
like it's evolving from pet owner to those kinds of references.
Hmm.
And the relationship, especially over COVID, where people are quite often in lockdown at home with their pets, they'd lost their interactions of their social circles.
Yes.
Their pets became the most important thing in their lives. And it's now like we're seeing the dynamic is that similar to a parent and a child. It is very interesting, and you can go down a complete rabbit hole with it.
Yeah, I'm sure you can, but I suppose as you described, once you sort of become niche oriented, all of that
Yeah,
information becomes more and more relevant, and
yeah,
your whole marketing message would then be tuned into what people are feeling and what they're thinking within that sector as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons we find email marketing so powerful is you can build relationships with people. It's not a sporadic post going up on social
Mm,
media or, you can build a step-by-step journey that you take people through and
mm,
develop those strong relationships with your brand. And I mean, we find a lot of businesses struggle because they focus so much on the customer acquisition and, plowing money into maybe Facebook ads or something to acquire
Yes.
the customer, but then there's not the nurturing of that person once they purchase to keep them loyal and to keep them,
Yeah.
with you long term and
Yeah.
get others referring to you as well.
It's
So,
funny because sending an email costs $0.
yeah, I know. It's,
And
it's really just your subscription to whatever email service provider you're using, and that's it.
yeah, yeah. And like I've been a huge advocate of this for years, saying to people, build your email list. Phone numbers
Yeah,
as well. But email is probably the most cost effective communication channel
yeah.
in terms of I can send an email to a million people, it takes the same amount of effort as sending one. So,
Exactly. And it increases the value of your business. So if you've got a good email list, if you're looking to have an exit strategy from your business and sell it in the future, it's going to dramatically increase the value of your business if you've got a good, engaged, and large
yeah.
email list that have been well nurtured and not left cold sitting there for long periods. So,
Do you think, because
yeah.
I know with social media, one of the big reasons it's so successful is this dopamine hit. People
Yeah.
just like their attention span is shrinking down to about 3 seconds now, is the maximum amount of time. Does that
Yeah.
impact your approach to email marketing? Are your emails now
Um,
shorter, or
Yeah, they are shorter. It depends on the purpose of the email, but we're also finding like video content in email gets a lot more engagement, like embedding a video into the email.
mm-hmm.
It's because we're all becoming conditioned to be lazy. We don't want to read things anymore. We don't want to sit and digest it. We want to just, click on it and have somebody talk to us to
Yeah,
spout what we need in a very short period of time. So, yes, things are evolving daily, but definitely I think the social media platforms are conditioning us to want more video content, and so that translates through to your emails as well.
yeah, yeah, fantastic. So Taryn, if we're going to summarize everything we've talked about in a couple of sentences, how would you sort of like to close this call off?
I think for me, it would just be not to be afraid of niching. Just it's not a case of being afraid of it and avoiding it. Just do it gradually. But I can't emphasize enough that niching, like you were saying, just niching to a specific global region or a specific industry just isn't enough these days. If you really want to stand out in a crowd and be seen and heard, you really need to focus in on one problem, one solution, and one particular person and just hone in on that and just keep repeating it. It makes your life a hell of a lot easier as well because you're not having to be everything to everybody. You can just focus in on that one thing.
Yeah, yeah. So it takes a bit of, I suppose, sheer guts to make some decisions. But as you just
Yeah,
described, it's just a process, isn't it? It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
it's about sort of saying, well, the old definition of niche is probably historical now,
Yes.
and
Yeah, I think it is. It has changed a lot. And that's why I keep always in my mind when I'm looking at our business is that, inch wide and a mile deep. And like, how can we go deeper on this? How can we stay more and more narrow with what we're doing?
mm, yeah, awesome. Taryn, we could go on for hours on this. It's such a
I
fascinating
know.
topic, but let's park it there. If anyone wants to reach out, your name is on the screen. I'm sure they can
Yep.
find you on the internet. They don't even need an email address anymore. Just type in your name.
No, just Google.
It's amazing, isn't it? We used to
It
worry
is.
about, oh, and your phone number is, and you go, no, don't worry about the phone number. Just type my name
Yeah.
into Google, you'll find me.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, fantastic. Taryn, thanks again so much for your time. Really, really valuable information. And if anyone would like to follow up with that, feel free to reach out to Taryn or myself. So thanks again.
Thanks very much, David. See you later.